Hey guys, today I want to speak about a abstract which I had, which is currently being submitted to International Stroke Conference, and it will be presented very soon, into 2026 in the American Heart Association. I believe this is going to be presented in New Orleans, Louisiana, or in California. So essentially, this is going to be trends and disparities in pediatric stroke mortality in the United States, 1999 to 2020. So it's on a 22-year study. It's an analysis of CDC Wonder database. Now, I want to kind of dive into CDC Wonder base. It's actually Wonder. It starts with W stands for wide ranging. ON stands for online. D stands for data. E stands for epidemiological. R stands for research. So it's wide ranging online data for epidemiological research. It's International Stroke Conference in 2026 and August 2025. Now, the abstract that I want to speak a little bit about trends and disparities. Trends means like you see a certain group of things going up. So, for example, you see a rate. You see there's a higher rate in, for example, the southern parts or the Midwest. Then you also want to speak about maybe some sort of disparities. What about my disparities? Disparities means like maybe one group has a little bit higher. So, for examples, maybe like the Pacific Islanders are higher, or maybe the Asian population is higher. That's going to be a disparity. Yes. So background methods, results, and conclusions. Okay, so basically we have backgrounds. Pediatric stroke mortality is a significant cause of childhood mortality and morbidity. Understanding long-term mortality trends and identifying demographic regional disparities is a crucial for public health and planning. And our study, we essentially looked at from 1999 to 2020, so 22 years, and we looked at variation of sex and geographic regions. So the methods that we used was the retrospective analysis, anyone less than 18 years old, and they had a stroke, so ICD-10, ICD-160 codes, mortality data using the CDC, the CDC Center of Disease Control, Wonder. So we spoke wide-ranging online data, epidemiological research. Yes. And guys, I just wanted to speak about one thing, ICD-10. What does ICD-10 mean? Codes 160 to 169. ICD means International Classification of Disease. And 160 to 1, one like 60, 160, 162, it essentially means like stroke, your stroke mortalities and all that stroke, hemorrhage, all that type of stuff. And essentially from this, we calculate total deaths, crude mortality rate per 100,000 population, and then we stratified them by sex, race, and US consensus region to identify trends and disparities. And like I said, trends means any rate. So like there may be a higher rate of disease. And disparities means like, where is the differences? So differences or isolated groups. So there may be higher deaths in the Pacific Islander group or the Asian population, African American population, or American Indian population, Native American population. So that's what it essentially means. So I want to come back to the method a little bit. So essentially, like when we say census data, we essentially mean US census regions. It means it's related to censorship. Censorship means kind of protecting morality, kind of covering something up, and census kind of means like kind of you're kind of controlling the population and putting them in some places. So that's what I want. I want to come to the results and conclusion really quickly. The results is that we had 6,286 pediatric stroke deaths from 1999 to 2020. And the overall crude mortality rate was zero point 0.4 deaths per 100,000 population. The overall crude mortality rate was zero point 0.4 per 100,000 for both group. However, significant regional disparities in mortality were identified. Um, mm, the South recorded the highest number of deaths. So 2,610 with a crude mortality rate of zero point 0.4 per 100,000. The Midwest had the second highest mortality, 1,437 deaths with a crude rate of zero point 0.4. The Northeast had 949, West had 1,290 deaths. Demonstrated lower crude mortality, zero point 0.3 per 100,000. So you guys can see the highest was South. It had like 2,600 deaths. Midwest was also 1,400 deaths. In the Northeast, 949. In the West, 129. Now let's come to disparities. Disparities was the Black or African American population. We had 0.64 deaths per 100,000 population. And that was the highest one. And then like really like low, and they had like approximately 3,400 deaths over a like 22-year period. And then let's come over here. we did see that the white population, they did have 842 deaths, but their mortality rate was around 0.34 per 100,000. Yeah, that was for the white children. Let's come to Asian or like we can say Pacific Islander race, meaning like New Zealand people. So that's 466 deaths. So their crew mortality was 0.27 per 100,000 people. And then African American or native Alaska native children, they were 91 deaths. So crew mortality was 0.16 per 100,000. So over the last 2 decades, pediatric children rates have remained stable and shown persistent disparity based on sex, U.S. Census region, and race. The higher mortality rate is observed in males. It's seen in the southern and midwestern regions, as well as in the black African American regions. And then after that, I would say the second highest would be the whites. They were 0.34 mortality rate. Asian Pacific Islanders were maybe like the third highest, and the least were American Indians or Alaska natives. And this highlights further investigation to look out for prevalence, health access, reporting practices. These findings can inform targeted public health strategies and remain aimed at mitigating these disparities. So I want to discuss what is crew mortality rate. It's going to be the number of deaths in a population during a given time, divided by the total population size, a midpoint of that period. So, guys, I just want to summarize. Our study was trends and disparities uh, in pediatric stroke mortality in the United States from 1999 to 2020. It was analysis of CDC, so Center of Disease Control, wide-ranging online data epidemiology research. It's going to be submitted in the International Stroke Conference in 2026, and this is going to be essentially looking at the childhood mortality, morbidity, looking at long-term trends, and this is going to be we essentially look at the individual sex, and we use like geographic areas. The methods that we use was anyone below 18. We use ICD-10 codes, International Classification Disease, from 160 to 169, and we use the CDC Wonder database. We looked at total deaths, we looked at crew mortality rate, and then these were data were extracted, analyzed by sex, race, and U.S. consensus areas census. Total deaths was 62886. The overall was 0.4. The highest was seen in the highest was seen in the south, followed by with a and the Midwest, followed by the West and the Northeast, and the least was the Northeast. Okay. The amount of disparity we saw in the black African Americans, 0.64, followed by the whites, which was 0.4 per 100,000, 0.34 per 100,000. Asian and Pacific Islanders were even less, 0.27, and American Indians and Alaska Natives were the least, 0.16 per 100,000. Conclusion, we learned that there's higher mortality in males, higher mortality in the South and the West, and there needs to be further and the African American, and there needs to be further investigations to look at prevalence, healthcare access, reporting practices. So that's going to be crew mortality rate, total number of deaths per population, and divided by the total size and the amount of period midpoint of that period. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video.